Hello, welcome to another episode of Daily Anime Reviews, a series where we go ahead and we talk about seasonal episodes, seasonal anime. Jesus Christ, I butchered it. It's so late while I'm recording this. I apologize, and again, apologize for the low tone. Try to keep it down since it is very late or early, depending how you look at it, with it being like close to 2 a.m. anyways. But today we're going to be talking about the first episode for Fire Force Season 3, Episode 2. Or technically, hold on. I think I might need to fix something. Let me go in here real quick. Let me do something. There we go. Let me do that. Because that feels more appropriate. That feels more appropriate. I think I wanted to treat that, but I think it'd be easier just to call it Season 3, Episode 14, rather than Season 3, Part 2, Episode 1. On that. We're not doing all that. Especially since it is technically, it's still Season 3. Yeah, so we're back with the second half for Season 3 of Fire Force, and when the first half finished, I definitely felt some way about it, right? I kind of always, felt some way about Fire Force after, Season 2. Season 1 I thought was phenomenal. That shit was great. I had my gripes, and it seems like I had my issues, but I didn't necessarily know what. And I think this episode kind of helped me realize that, because the whole thing with this episode is that Sheener's back. He's been gone for 3 months, but technically not gone because he's physically been there, but mentally Sheener hasn't been there. Sheener has not physically been present in the world. It seems like either a doppelganger or something has been taking him over. He was a lot more rude, a lot more aggressive, and also he did do something very unspeakable, which was he hurt Sister Iris, which was not good. But Iris also knew that wasn't really Shinra. He definitely was acting different. That's because she also felt a change inside of her, and that's because she now has powers, which I kind of called beforehand, because again, it seems like all the pillars are amping up people's abilities to have powers and whatnot. And what I think this isn't necessarily the fact that she's been a third generation this entire time. I think she's had powers. She hasn't actually had powers. But back in the first part of this, they do mention that, and the last Adola user was, activated. I just had a sneaky suspicion that, they would only really know that if somebody in the vicinity was actually that Adola user. So my assumption was it was either Maki or Iris. It was going to be one of those two. And I think with this episode, it kind of confirms that I think Iris is the last Adola Link user, which kind of makes sense. I mean, there's no real rhyme or reason as to who's an Adola user. It's just kind of like, hey, it's you, so fuck it. So it is what it is. And so they have that conversation. It was everyone trying to get back. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of had a scare because I thought they were gonna off Benimaru with the way that he was talking, which also kind of leads into the complaint that I have with this show. I mean, I assume something's happening, but it also felt kind of weird at the same time for the placement. Maybe it makes more sense. I'm not 100% sure. I assume it has something to do with stuff after, but again, it has something. A lot of my gripes. The 14th episode of this definitely made me realize why Fire Force has been so frustrating to me as it kept going on. At least the anime. It's definitely a show that I think is worth reading the manga for. This is definitely a show that's worth reading the manga for, because it's the same issue as Soul Eater, where I think it's kind of hard to adapt the author's work in this. I forget the name of the author, but I think it's really hard because I think he just adds and explains and does so much stuff. But here's my thing. Here's my big thing, right? I think Fire Force has a lot of good concepts. I like the power system. The characters are great. The animation overall style is really fucking good. It's honestly the same thing that I have with Soul Eater. In fact, I actually think Soul Eater is a better adaptation overall than Fire Force. I just think the ending's kind of shit. But also, I've been told that there are drastic difference from the manga for Soul Eater, so I gotta actually look that up. But the main problem with me and Fire Force, and this seems a bit, at least no one's really complained that it's gone off script, which is very interesting. So I haven't seen any reports that it's gone off script at some point or plans to go off script. Maybe I missed it. I don't think so. At least I'm not assuming it is. But here's my thing with Fire Force, right? It has a lot of good things, but it doesn't seem like it knows how to place them well and when to place them well. And I think that's probably how I'm going to review it once everything is said and done. But season 1 of it, I think had a really fucking good base. Like I said, I had my issues with it, with like Tamaki and other little minor things like that. But the minor things that I'm realizing would like snowball into itself, it wasn't really also present in season 2, but it was just kind of more of the same. I think season 3 is where I'm really, really feeling that issue, in the sense of it doesn't know where to put things or how to time things. So like one big aspect that I have, at least with season 3 overall, is the fact that like the seriousness and the comedy doesn't really mesh well. It's not something like Kaiju number 8 that kind of knows how to balance it a little bit more. Only like, and even then when I had the issues, it's not really super, it wasn't like a super big issue. It was just more of just like, we're getting different effects, but it's still working. Like, you know, like I've always said with Kaiju number 8, the manga comes off more serious with funny parts. The anime comes off more comedic with like seriousness dubbed into it. But both of them kind of work in their own similar way. It feels with Fire Force, especially in season 3, where like there could be like a serious moment that happens and then it just goes right to a funny moment that just kind of breaks you out of the immersion. And I think like that's what I've been feeling a lot from season 3 is immersion breaking moments. And I think, and I'm going to make a claim here, I think more people would have less of a problem with the fan service that Fire Force has than if it was placed better in places. Because I'm one of those people that actually doesn't think that Fire Force's fan service is that bad. And honestly, it really isn't. I think anybody that was like, oh, this is a goonery anime, or this has way too much fan service, it's not that it doesn't have too much fan service, because realistically, it really doesn't have that much fan service to it. And I think a lot of people really overreact when how much fan service it is. The problem is, when the fan service comes, or when the fan service is present, it kind of derails any type of feeling that you have. It's immersion breaking. It's like the juxtaposition is not very good. That's why I think a lot of people have the issue with it. It's not the fact that the fan service is in there. Some people definitely have that problem, but it's more that like the reason why Fire Force gets so many complaints about it is because it's not placed well. It's placed way more aggressively than others. Like, I know it's supposed to be a breakdown of like the 14th episode, but this is kind of just overall how I feel about the whole thing. So, because episode 14 was that realization for me. This is why I'm trying to add as much context as I can. So, I forget which episode it was, but a big episode 1, which I liked, was the episode where Tamaki goes after, his name wasn't Renji or Rengoku, I forget what it was, but it was also another fire dude with a lot of energy. But the dude that has like stars for eyes, who was in the first division, but then betrayed the first division because he was working with the White Clad, and he was like fighting Tamaki, and then Shinra came to like save her, and she had that moment of crying. That moment is still one of the best moments in the show, by far. Like, super emotional, super great, it's super well done. But right after that, I think like the next episode starts, and there's like a super mega heavy fan service. Like, they're like Tamaki's falling all over Shinra, they're having like a reaction, stuff like that. And I think you really needed to keep that momentum of being like super serious. I think there are appropriate moments where that happens. I think like the beginning where like, you know, Tamaki and them are all going to like doing the first like training thing as like a joint thing, and then she has like her moments. I think that's fine, but there's a lot of serious moments where I think that happens. Like the most recent fan service thing with Tamaki was in season 3 where they like used her tail. I don't think that was really that bad. That one was probably more of the appropriate times where fan service could have been in there. But my whole point of this, right, is that actually talking about season 3 episode 1, right? There's a part in this episode where like everything is serious. Shinra has just come back, at least mentally, from like being in like a brain fog for 3 months, or being somewhere in Adola for 3 months, and like it feels very serious because he's been like a completely different person. They don't know if they can trust him. They can do this, they can do that, and it breaks off into this comedy bit where he looks at himself and he's just like, what the fuck? Like, over the top, like, oh my god, like I'm not supposed to be like this. Now, I get the reaction because obviously he hasn't seen himself, but surely you could have put that off to a certain extent. Like, I think it would have been better to have his reaction to everything after the more serious talk, when he's talking with like Vulcan and the doctor, right? Like, that would have been more of a better part, because Vulcan's not taking things too seriously and the doctor wasn't taking things too seriously. There's like appropriate moments where you can put that, but putting it right in the middle of a serious situation after like someone woke up and you're trying to explain to them what's been happening the last 3 months, no, that's not a good place. And like, the show does this, and I kind of had this thing too with like the scene with Benny Maru, where like the timing, or like just like it feels like they're putting random things randomly at places where it's just like, oh, they put this thing with Benny Maru and he looks serious, but it looks different. And I don't know if that's like the manga's fault or if it's like this adaptation's fault. That's why I say it's like worth it to actually potentially go and like read the manga, maybe even like do a podcast episode where I like read the entire thing, because it's so off to me how like different and like intense it really is. My biggest one, honestly, is when it happens in season 3, when they find like Arthur's real parents, and like, oh no, they exist and they did abandon him, but they're doing this like spelunking thing with the other kids, and they've had 3 kids that they abandoned him, and like, it's fucking weird, and they don't really dive into it, but it's something where like I feel like it should be treated a lot more serious, because that's like an actual growth point. But I guess like the apple doesn't fall from the family. I don't know, man. Like, it sucks. It also like, it's one of those things. It's also weird too, because like they play Arthur as not a smart person, but at the same time, like, he's the only one that could tell that Shinra wasn't Shinra. Well, not in like a bad way, like something happened and changed, but he's just like, oh no, that is not Shinra. That's like somebody else. Like whatever that is, like yes, that physically looks like Shinra, but that is not Shinra. Like, Arthur was somebody that was able to pick that up, and he's like, okay, yeah, obviously he might be emotionally smart, maybe sometimes, but even then, not really. I don't know. This show just does things that bother me so much. And the thing I hate about it is there's still so much potential to save this show, even at this point, because everything is still like, it's not something that would make me hate the show, but it's frustrating to watch. And like, this was like, I don't know why this was the episode that made me click everything into place, but like, I think just seeing it so aggressively change, and then see the seriousness, and then the change of everything, it just felt weird, because it also felt like, you know, if you're gone for 3 months, surely we would probably know a little bit more about the world and where everybody is. Like, what happened to the pink hair girl? I forget her name, but what happened to the pink hair girl that went with him to Adola? Like, where, like, what is the doppelganger? All that stuff. We're getting a bit more lore and other stuff like that. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird, man. Like, again, I hope they nail it, but they're also trying to adapt a lot of chapters in the 13 episodes. I don't know how that's gonna go. And a lot of people are worried, and it does seem like we're blowing through this fast. Again, this is definitely going to be worth some type of watch and some type of like reading of the manga to actually properly see how everything could have gone if properly adapted, but we'll have to see, man. Anyways, let me know your opinion of the episode, if you liked it, if you hated it, if you had any problems with it like I did, or if you just want to call me an asshole. But yeah, that's going to do it for this episode review. Come back tomorrow or come back next time. I don't know. I'm sorry. It's 2 a.m. and I'm very tired doing all this. But I hope you guys have a lovely day, and I will see you in the next video.